Human nature craves exaltation. If we are not careful, and without even realizing it, we may find ourselves spinning tall tales designed to elevate ourselves above others. There is a way to be exalted, and today's devotional shows the right method to follow. In Luke, chapter 18, Jesus tells a parable about two men who go to the temple to pray. One is a Pharisee, who proudly lists his good deeds and compares himself favorably to others. The other is a tax collector, who humbly asks for God's mercy. After noting this stark contrast, Jesus pronounced his assessment, which was shocking to his audience. He says that the tax collector, not the Pharisee, went home justified before God. This parable teaches that humility is essential for a right relationship with God. We have nothing to be proud of and must approach God with a humble and contrite heart. When we humble ourselves, God will exalt us in His time and His way. He gives grace, peace, and spiritual blessings to those who acknowledge their need for Him. As Charles Spurgeon writes, "The Lord puts His honors upon those who can wear them to the honor of the giver." Therefore, we should seek to cultivate humility in our lives, recognizing that true exaltation comes only from God. And He also told this parable to some people who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and viewed others with contempt. Two men went up into the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood and was praying this to himself: "God, I thank you that I am not like other people, swindlers, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I pay tithes of all that I get." But the tax collector, standing some distance away, was even unwilling to lift up his eyes to heaven, but was beating his breast, saying, "God, be merciful to me, the sinner." I tell you, this man went to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but he who humbles himself will be exalted. Luke 18, verses 9 to 14. Charles Spurgeon shared these thought-provoking sentiments about this parable.
Everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but he who humbles himself will be exalted. Luke 18 verse 14. It ought not to be difficult for us to humble ourselves, for what have we to be proud of? We ought to take the lowest place without being told to do so. If we are sensible and honest, we shall be little in our own eyes. Especially before the Lord in prayer, we shall shrink to nothing. Though we cannot speak of merit, for we have none, our one and only appeal must be to mercy. God, be merciful to me, a sinner. Here is a cheering word from the throne. We shall be exalted by the Lord, if we humble ourselves. For us, the way upward is downhill. When we are stripped of self, we are clothed with humility, and this is the best of wear. The Lord will exalt us in peace and happiness of mind. He will exalt us into knowledge of His word and fellowship with Himself. He will exalt us in the enjoyment of sure pardon and justification. The Lord puts His honors upon those who can wear them to the honor of the giver. He gives usefulness, acceptance, and influence to those who will not be puffed up by them, but will be abased by a sense of greater responsibility. Neither God nor man will care to lift up a man who lifts up himself, but both God and good men unite to honor modest worth. O Lord, sink me in self that I may rise in you.
What is our key takeaway today? In ourselves, we have nothing to be proud of and should take the lowest place. We should be little in our own eyes, especially before God in prayer, where our only appeal can be to mercy. If we humble ourselves, the Lord will exalt us in peace, happiness, knowledge, fellowship, pardon, and justification. God honors those who wear their honors humbly. As Spurgeon encourages us, Pray today that God would sink us in self so that we may rise in Him. Everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but he who humbles himself will be exalted. Luke 18:14.